in peace, and in the name of our ancient ancestors, Hotel, which is the word of peace. I hope you're well this afternoon.
Oh, fantastic.
I'm feeling good. And I hope also that we are ready, to hear a little bit about our ancient ancestors. The interesting thing, before we even get started, this brother came in with a little brochure here, and which made a statement: it's time to come together in unity. It's time to hear the call of spirit. It is time to understand the wisdom of the ancients, our ancestors. And to do this, we must return to the science of ancient spiritual practices. I think that's very critical, and it's a must. But even more important than that, the time that we're living in today is such that we are moving toward that new age, that new way, the way of our ancestors. That time that we moved away from, the time that they are telling us to come back to, so that we can move back upon the path, so that we can walk that path. The Babalaos come to our children, when we give them names, and they say that one of their functions is to tie them in the spirit, with the present, with the past, so that they can walk the path properly. I think that's very critical also, isn't it? Huh? So that we need to think about our names too. My name is Umrani Ani. The word means, Umrani means he who brings light. I hope that today we might shed some light on each other in this place where we dwell at this moment. The last name, Ani, is a Kemetic name. It is the keeper. He was the keeper of the Holy Book, and that all the material, all that the work, and all the practices of ancient ancestors were incorporated in these books. This is one of those books. And like one brother say, all wisdom and all knowledge come from wells of Abydos. That means they come from our ancestors, because that's where they are, in Abydos. It's interesting, isn't it? We must know who we are. I belong to an organization called ASCAC. That is the Association for the Study of Classical African Civilization. Now, the acronym is ASCAC, A-S-C-A-C. Our organization is worldwide. We have numerous chapters around the United States. We have one here. I happen to be the president, so that if you need the information, you can always call me. We have a job and a duty. We have scholars, anthropologists, historians, metaphysicians. We have scientists, medical people, people from all over, housewives, truck drivers. We all have a part to do in this revolution, this movement from where we are to where we really ought to be, so that we come together wherever we are, whoever we are, all people, irrespective of education, those who have lots of education, those who have very little education. We still come together because we all have our purpose and our duty. So that we network with all other organizations, like this brother's organization. Some of our members actually belong to his organization, in fact. But I think that's very critical, that we begin to look at ourselves as a people and not as descendants of slaves. At this point, when we're going to talk about our ancestors, when they send messages to us for us to give to our people, or when they come themselves to bring that message to us, a word that is used by many of our ancestors is Indaba. So I say to you to this day, Indaba, my children, that is, be quiet. Indaba. Let us create the environment so that our ancient ancestors can come and share with us this celebration, this day, this weekend. So, Indaba, my children, be quiet. My heart belongs to you, O Amun-Ra. It is good to see your name. You who are the creators of all things, the maker of heaven and earth, O Amun-Ra. Bless us this afternoon. Let us see your face. For it is good if we can only see the blessings of your creation, the greatest of your creations. O Eternal One, come with us this day. Spend a little time with us. We pray to thee in thy name. Now, I assume everybody knows a libation, but just let me say that when I raise my hand after I pour the libation, we all say Ashe together. Can we do that? Ashe. Ashe. Okay. To the Creator. So he who came and brought the universe as we know it. Ashe. And to our mothers and fathers, the very first of all the deities. Ashe. And to all those mothers and fathers who came subsequent to the very first ones. Ashe. And now to Menes, the ruler of the very first dynasty and the very first civilization. Ashe. And to Imhotep, the very first genius on planet Earth, our ancestor. Ashe. And to Martin, and to Sojourner, and all the others who came and gave their lives so that we can proceed on our journey home. And most of all, to our children, the little ones, the big ones, the ones that are with us now, and all those who are coming subsequently. Ashe. I want to thank you for coming today. And we're going to talk a little bit about Jesus in Egypt. Now, I know that most of us are aware of Jesus, a Jesus Christ. But most of us don't realize that there were a whole lot of Christs, something like 16 ultimately. There was one, though, that came before all the others. His name was Heru, H-E-R-U. And all the others came subsequent to Heru. Heru, the child of God. The son of the Father. Sound familiar, doesn't it? Huh? He was the first. And he lived in a place called Kemet. Now, you know, the name that we normally use is Egypt, right? But we're not going to use Egypt today. We're going to use the name of our ancestors. We had our own name, didn't we? That was not too good. All right, Kemet. Now, can everybody see that? Okay. That's a very important name, you see, because when they chose that name, one thing that was very, very clear in their minds, which is not too clear in our minds, and that one thing is that they knew who they were. Interesting. They knew who they were. So they named themselves according to the people that they really were, right? Kemet. Now the word Kemet, when you write it out, the very first character, which is the logo, is a piece of charcoal. Now what color is a piece of charcoal? Black, isn't it? Huh? Think they didn't know who they were? That's their logo. And charcoal is made out of carbon, isn't it? Huh? And that's the what? The nucleus of all organic material in the universe. So the name was complete. It wasn't a half name. It was a complete name. Kemet, you see. So they knew. And the people they called Kemetir, or the what? The black people. Same way. Started with the logo, charcoal. Or if they're talking about the city, the black what? The black cities. Interesting. So we should use the name Kemet and not the name Egypt. But that was the name of a foreigner. Sound familiar? How many of us got those foreign names? See? Huh? We still wear, don't we? We wear the clothing of the wolf, not the sheep. We still wear the clothing of the sheep. One brother says, we have been, it sounds terrible. I was saying it earlier. He said, we have what? Evil spirits inside of us. Meaning what? Meaning that we have spirits inside of us that does the wishes of those who put them there. And the name is the first one, isn't it? And we have to ask ourselves another question before we start talking about the ancient Jesus. What religion did we have when we were brought to these shores? Interesting, huh? Did we have Christianity? No. No, we didn't, did we? Huh? Interesting. But we practiced a slave religion, is that not right? Because that was given to us after they did what? Made slaves of us. Gave us new names and gave us another God to worship. So we must do what? We must go back to the what? Like the brother said, back to the ancient what? Spiritual practices. Like Ayikwa said, we must go back to the ways of the ancestors. Our way. Our way. For only then can we position ourselves upon the path of righteousness. You heard that word, the path of right. What is the path of righteousness then? Huh? That's the path that we should always go. We walk only the way we want to go. If it's not right, why walk that route? Doesn't make sense, does it? So we walk the path of righteousness. So we want to get back on the proper path. We want to walk the path of righteousness. We want to walk the straight line. We want to walk in the way of our ancient ancestors. In Kemet, that was a holy book too. Now, this holy book was called the Book of the Coming Forth by Day and Night. I mean, everybody know about that book, right? Not the Book of the Dead, all right? That's the Greeks called it, Book of the Dead. They didn't know what they were talking about. The Book of the Coming Forth by Day and Night. Now, and that's what Jesus was all about. We'll see in a minute. The movement, energy, the definition of energy fits well with us, because we never die. Energy is what? Neither created nor destroyed. Is that right? It simply changes from one form to another. Now, you know, scientists name energy. And somebody was talking about DNA just now. DNA. We are the people of melanin. Interesting. We are. And they can take scientifically now, trace our ancestry back, what, millions of years, because of that stuff called melanin, that black material. Back to what? The logo, right? That black material. Back to that logo. The living material. We're the first people on the planet. That's also been proven, using the same basic principles. We're talking about changing our way of thinking so that we can begin to think like our ancient ancestors. So the book of Coming Forth by Day and Night said something very significant. And that is that it was the mystery that came first before the ritual. Who came first? The mystery came before the what? Ritual. Now, we always think that Jesus Christ came from where? On earth. First, did he? The mystery came what? Before the ritual. Not the ritual before the what? Mystery. Huh? So, in order to understand the mystery, we must understand the creation, because that's the mystery. We must understand the gods and the goddesses of the creation, because they are the ones who created the earth, who did the work. Isn't that right? They are the ones who actually put together this place we call the universe. They built the stars and the solar systems and the galaxies and the planets and Earth and Earth. The gods and the goddesses. They're what? The handed people of the Creator. There were lots of them. You know, and those other folks call them all what? Creators. They say, you know what they are? They're worshipers they're pagan worshipers. They're worshiping what? Many gods. We never said that. They didn't come and ask you. Did they come and ask you that? They just made the statement. They didn't ask me. Because they asked me, I said, well, there's only one what? Creator. But he had a lot of helpers. Huh? Ashe. Isn't that right? Because Ashe is one of his helpers. Isn't that true? Huh? He is the one who says, the name that you call, we'll see to it that he is what? Heard. That's Ashe's job. We can't do that. He was created for that purpose. You see, he had lots of helpers. Nephthys, huh? Asa, Aset, Ra, the sun, all helpers of the Creator. They all had their function in putting this universe together. You know, and those brothers and sisters in Abydos, who now lie in Abydos, right now in Abydos, they made sure that they left this information for you and for me. So how did they do that? They carved it in stone, didn't they? Huh? They didn't just write it on paper. They said what? We write for eternity. So we do what? We carve it in stone. Now, if you want to see all of this material that we talk about, go where? Go home. And look where? Right. Look on the pyramids. Go inside the pyramids. Check the walls out. And in Waset, I love Waset. You see, Waset was a university city. And the students would move from one building to the other. They walked. They didn't ride. But every artifact, every statue had writing carved in stone, so that every child, every student, no matter what the age, would be able to read and understand the wisdom and knowledge of the ancestors. It was placed there for us. See, that's one of the things that right now I'm a little concerned about. We don't leave for our children anything. We don't even educate our children. And I think that's why it's so important that we go back to the ways of our ancient ancestors. What's happening to our children? Huh? They're filling the jails up with them. Huh? I mean, young black boys are filling the jails up all over the country, and they're doing what? Building more and more jails. And the group that they're incarcerating next to our young boys are our young girls. So what's happening to our children? We need to take a lesson from whom? Our ancient ancestors. They left it for us. They made sure that all those who came subsequent to them would be able to access this knowledge. They put it there for us. They wrote for eternity. We need to take a lesson. If we don't learn anything else, I think, is that right now, at the time in which we are living, we need to begin to do just that. Begin to take our children and begin to give them the knowledge and wisdom that's in us. It's all here, isn't it? You know, the thing that impressed me here too is that we have been what? The spirits that are in our body came from the outside. But we don't come from the outside, we come from where? The inside out. What does education mean? It's a Greek, came from the Greek to mean to what? To bind together. Huh? To draw from what? To draw from. That makes sense. Why? Why to draw from? Because it's already inside of us. We haven't gone any place. We're still right in here, in the heart. We just need to get all this other crap out, so that we can begin to blossom and grow and develop like we're supposed to. Because the real you and the real me dwells inside this physical form. That's why it's so important that we understand the concept of Christ. You know, that's why it's so important that we stop going to church on Sunday morning, and then on Monday morning we go out and try to cheat everybody out of every penny they got. You know, do you realize, were we talking about 1,500 years before the Bible was written, that there wasn't any such thing as a church? There was no building, no structure. There was no such thing as religion. It didn't exist. What did exist then? The mystery, the spirituality, right? The concept that we all came from the Creator. I like the thing about the male and female. You know, you see the tree of life, and they say, oh, God is at the apex, and man is on the right side. The female is on the left side. And like, so that they are two ends of the same continuum, right? It's because it's a pyramid. Not separate. Huh? We don't have one over across the sky over here, another on this side of the sky. Each one, male and female, exists on each side a continuum. That continuum is the Creator. Right? So what happens when they come together? Now, you know, the female is the vehicle through which all life comes on the planet Earth. The vehicle through which all life comes on the planet. And the male principle is the seed of the Creator that activates that vehicle, which does what? Invoke the power of the Creator. That's a heavy statement, isn't it? Huh? That's a heavy statement. It invokes the power of the Creator. Why? Because it's a continuum. All the energy that exists in that continuum. So it's in you, it's in you, it's in me, it's in all of us. So this young man is a part of that what? Continuum. He is you. He is you. He's me. He's all of us. He's not separate. So that as a people, let's go back to the ways of our ancient ancestors. One other thing, Kemet, as we know it, is one of them, is studied more than any place else on the planet. Why is that? Have any idea why?
The knowledge that comes from.
Yeah, that's where the knowledge comes from. They left it. Makes sense, doesn't it? Huh? Why does everybody study our homeland? Everybody is over there. We can't even get over there because of what? Film, right? Isn't that right? You go over there today and what happens? They're there in droves, day in and day out. Why? Because that's where the knowledge is. They know that. But we won't go back there. Something to think about. Except for those of us who come here with the ability to access the collective unconscious mind. Some of us have that ability. Some of us do. And then that melanin can do its job, huh? Huh? It can react. You know, it's a funny thing about that melanin. You see, it draws that energy all day long from the sun. That's Ra, right? That's Ra. Ra, it visits us what? Every day. Never ceases. Ra is always there, isn't it? Bringing energy. Don't have to worry about it. We don't even think about it. But it brings that energy. And our pineal gland, guess what? Draws it in, draws it in, draws it in. And at night, the melatonin reaches into the pineal gland. It takes all that energy. And then once every hour, it connects us with the collective unconscious mind. All the knowledge and wisdom of the universe. That says something, doesn't it? Why? What's so important about that? The knowledge is where? Inside. So the mechanism is what? What are we talking about? The female principle is the what? Is the mechanism through which what? All life comes, right? So what are we talking about now with the melanin? The female principle, aren't we? Isn't that right? That's the female principle. So what happens is that once every hour during REM sleep, once every hour, we access or become one with God. And all those people who are creators, they're creative then. So everybody say what? You say, ask them a question, you say what? Well, let me think, let me sleep on it. You heard that, haven't you? Let me sleep on it. Huh? And that's why. It makes sense, doesn't it? But you know, and it doesn't just stop there, you know. And the serotonin is another what? Form of melanin. After you access the collective unconscious mind, then serotonin takes it to the memory bank and says, all right, you can remember what you just saw, what you just witnessed. Brings it to the mind, to the forefront, so that we can go out and be creative, if we like, in all different forms. Why do you think black people are so creative? Huh? We make white folks what? Billions and billions of dollars in the music industry. We create work for them. Billions and billions of dollars. People like what? Like BP and Shell Oil and Standard are all just reaping all of this money that we doing what? We creating what? We doing the creation. We create the songs. We create the industry. And they reaping the benefit. Because we don't have our own identity. We're creative people. We usher in every single age. Think back in history. Who put the Europeans in power? The Moors. 700 years they did what? Huh? They brought knowledge and wisdom to the Europeans. Built 13,000 libraries to teach them how to read and write. They couldn't even read and write. Can you imagine that? We are the creators. God created us. You know, we're the only ones who've gone astray. Just need to go back home. Right? Now, Kim is not old, but you know, only, well, I tell you how old. The Egyptologists say that we are only about 2,000 to 3,000 years old, the civilization of Kemet. Yet, there was this one guy named Graham. He went down into Egypt, into Kemet, and he looked at the Sphinx, and he said, you know, the weathering on that Sphinx looks kind of strange and funny. And he said, I think I'll bring a meteorologist here and see what, let's see what he thinks about it. So he brought a meteorologist, and the meteorologist looked up there and he said, well, you know what? He said, people have been calling that weathering, sand weathering. Sand didn't do that. He said, water did. Think about it now. They've been telling us that we're only what? The civilization is only what? 2,000 or 3,000 years old, right? He said, water. That's water weathering. And he said, wow. I wonder how long has it been since enough water has fallen in this area that it would tell us, give us an indication of as to how old the Sphinx is. So they went back in time and they researched. They found that it's no less than 10,000, 12,000 years. Is that a long time? But then they didn't stop there. Now, they went back and they did a computerization, went back in time, and what they found 10,500 years ago. They found the stars were fixed in a certain way, such that the shape was the shape of Asa, one of the Kemetic gods. Interesting, isn't it? And Aset. Because Asa and Aset, who we're going to talk about, were the ones who ushered in who? Us. Asa's father was Sel, the earth, you see. So that was very important, isn't it? Again, they left what? Records for us. Interesting, huh? They didn't just leave records in stone. They also left records where? In the heavens. In the heavens. I thought that was interesting, truly interesting. So now people are wondering, how old was the civilization, the first civilization? We don't know how old it is now. Some people now are talking about 25,000 years ago. I know one thing. If you see a civilization as advanced as Kemet, and at the time that we see this civilization, what's happening is it's going downhill. They needed time to build up to that point. And they couldn't have built those pyramids in 2,000 or 3,000 years. They could not have developed the technology to do it. Nobody has been able to reproduce them to this day. So they obviously was an old nation. One day, with your help and the help of your children and children's children, we'll find out. I mean, the physical aspect and the mental. But who is this God, Asa, that we're talking about? The son of Ra and Aset. Who is this God? The son of Ra. But Ra was Aset's husband. But it seemed that there was some hanky-pants going on with Aset. So Ra ended up being the son of Seb. Seb is the earth. Interesting. Seb's the earth. And and obviously that was intended, wasn't it? Because if it hadn't been for this genetic combination, we might not be here now, I think. But what happened was, Aset had several children. She had Horus, after Asa, Heru, H-E-R-U. Let me put that down so you don't put down Horus either, see. But that's a very important name. Very important name we can talk about. Heru. That's the root word for, what do you think? Heru. What would that remind you of? Nothing? Huh? Hero. That's right. Now you're going to see why in a minute, huh? That's right. And he's not a hero for nothing. She had other children too. Nephthys was a daughter. Set, you heard of Set, or Satan, Typhon. He had a lot of names. The evil one. That was a son too. But what happened was, you see, this is the mystery that the ritual came from. That's what's important here. The mystery. What happened was that Set, being an evil one, decided to kill his brother, Asa. Let me put his name up there so you know. jealous. It's evil. So when he got 17 of his friends, he said, I tell you what we'll do. Let's trick him, because he's hard to catch, that Asa guy. He's hard to catch, but let's trick him. So he asked Asa for all his measurements of his body. And he gave them to him. So without telling him, what he did was he built a coffin. And this is the mystery now. The lesson is in this mystery for all of us too. He built this coffin and he had this big party. He told everybody that if they can fit in the coffin, everybody at the party, the one that fits in the coffin can have it. Everybody tried it. Nobody fit. Of course, who he hadn't measured his brother, hadn't he? Taking the measurements of his brother. So when his brother stepped into the coffin, he fit perfectly. So right away he slammed the door, took the coffin, and threw it in the river. Going to get rid of it in the delta. So what happened? It began to float through the delta out toward the Mediterranean Sea. In the meantime, his wife, Set, being a good wife, she exiled. She left, and she went in search of her husband. But in the meantime, a tree grew up in the river and engulfed the coffin inside the tree. And this tree floated through the sea all the way over to Phoenicia, the country of Phoenicia. King saw the tree, he loved it. See, that's a beautiful tree. So he took the tree and he took it over to Byblos, where his palace was located. And he made a pillow. Took the tree and made a pillow out of it to hold up part of his structure, his building. Set looked all over the world looking for a husband. And finally she came to this Byblos. And when she stood by this pillow, remember we talked about those people who are born with what? The ability to feel, right? She knew what was inside that pillow. She knew that that was her husband. She knew it was Asa. So she took the pillow. And first they took the pillow and they put it on display there in Byblos, let people see the king, the great king. And they worshiped him for a while. And then after a while, she took this pillow and she took it back home. And she went into the waters of the swamps. And she found a hiding place and she took this coffin and she hid it. She wanted to make sure that Set would not find it. But one day Set was on a hunting trip. And on this hunting trip, he stumbled over this coffin. And he decided to look inside the coffin. And when he did, he saw that it was his brother. So he took the body and cut it into 14 pieces. And he took those pieces and he scattered them all over the world. And when he did that, Asa and her sister Nephthys, they sat and they cried and they moaned the loss of her husband. But then the jacket-headed god heard them crying, and he came to the rescue. And then he and Asa and Nephthys and Jehudi. Now mind you, Jehudi is the male principal. He is the voice of the Creator. He's the one that, the male principle that if you have problems, you do what? You go to him, and he lets you know what the problem is. That's the principle. He said, what's okay? So they put the body back together, all except one part, and that was the phallus. They couldn't find it. So he did what? He had to fashion it. But then Jehudi has the power to do that. We all have it in us, don't we? We have the power to heal, like Jehudi. You see. And when he did that, and they laid the body prostrate on his back with the phallus erect, and he blew on the body. He brought it, revived it, and he blew on our set. And she turned to a dove. And when she turned to a dove, she lit on the head of the phallus and was born at that moment. Heru was about to be born. The first, what? Virgin birth, right? The birth without the male and the female coming together as such. But at the same time, it was important, you see, that this mystery, it was important that this mystery contained all of the elements of the mystery. You see, everything had to be working what? In unison. So at the same time, something else was going on. Remember we talked about Ra bringing energy to us every day? Well, the sun at that time was sitting over here. At the lowest ebb in the sky. Now, this winter solstice. Now, what I'm going to tell you now, you can witness yourself. Every year, you can witness yourself. The sun at that moment was in the lowest ebb in the sky. Now, we know it stays back there how long? 3 days. Remember now, this is the time of year when the days are shorter and the nights are what? Long. Is that right? It is a time when you plant seeds, what happens? They have time to do what? Germinate. Is that right? And that's the time when the sun is at its lowest ebb. But 3 days later, on 25th of December, special day, right? 25th of December, right here. One minute after the 25th of December, the child was born. The child was born. Okay? The son is born. Why is that? This is the first time since the winter solstice that the days began to do what? Lengthen. Is that right? And life began to do what? Flow again among all living things. This is life coming. This is Heru, another name for what? Right? The Christ. The Christ child is born. Where was he born? In the 25th of December, he's born in August. The what? Capricorn. August is what? The stable. Isn't that what the Bible says? He was born in a what? A manger. in the cave of the she-goat. That's Jesus. That's not the only similarity. There are lots of them. But he was born in Capricorn. And it's very important. Capricorn has what? Is the sign of order. Isn't it? So he's bringing to the world what? Order. He's bringing to the world that which is ethical, that which is right. The concept of MAAT says it right, real. Balance, righteousness, justice, reciprocity, order. That's what the Christ child brought. 25th of December, 1 minute. At that same moment, now think about this. In the east, there was a star near the horizon, sitting there. Now, you don't believe it, but at the next year, go outside and look up in the sky and look over toward the horizon in the east, and you'll see a star sitting there. Count, you can see it there. Put it right here. That's the star Sirius, the brightest star in the sky. In the Bible, they call it what? Right. What your biblical story says? What do they call that star? When they led them to Bethlehem? Huh?
Morning star.
Morning star. The brightest star in the sky. That wasn't all. Look to its right. There was something else there too. Right on the equator. Was another star. Star system. It had 3 stars in its belt. Three kings. Interesting, huh? Right there. Now, don't believe me. Next year, go out and take a look. And if you go out, right outdoors, look over toward the what? Horizon here, right? You'll see the brightest star sitting there near the horizon, just above it. Look up. Let's go up toward the center of the sky. You'll see Orion. And we three kings of Orient are. They're right there, staring you in the face. Interesting. But there's another star, which says something about the birth, which is on the horizon, which is not as easy to see. There's one there right on the horizon called Virgo, right? And Virgo is the what? The Virgin. Symbolizing what? The virgin birth. All right? It's there too. Everything is what? Was in place. Everything was in place. And it's right there for you to see. You know, we are very fortunate people that to have ancestors like the ones that we have. They left it all for us. The legacy that they left us is a legacy that we should leave for our children. Isn't it? Now, the Jesus of Egypt. So what do we see in reality? we see that the Christ is the same Christ all over the world. Interesting, isn't it? Exactly the same. Every one of those 16 Christs came from where? Kemet. The basis of this mystery. The ritual did not come first. So why is that you cannot find a Christ, a Jesus Christ, that actually existed in the physical? Nobody has ever found it. Why is that? Huh? The ritual didn't come first, did it? The mystery came first. The only way that we can understand the nature of the Christ is to understand the mystery itself. That's what we've been talking about. Once we understand that, then we understand that this Christ, you know, because it was he who said, once he grew up, that I will avenge the what? The murder of my what? Father. Same. He said it too, just like the Bible did. They didn't call him hero for nothing. I am the avenger of that which is right. I have come to do what? Make life better for the poor. That's the Christ. You know, I look around me today, I don't see anybody in the church that's making things better for the poor. But that's what he said. So I think, in closing, that we should think about spirituality rather than that which is physical. Think about spirituality rather than what? Religiosity. Makes sense, doesn't it? Because if we live the life of Heru, then we too become what? The Son of God. We too become what? The avenger of evil. We too do what? Become to make things right, things that have gone wrong. That makes sense. But most important of all, I think we have, as a people, that when we look at this, it gives us the tools to create a world that was once our world, once a righteous world, a world where man and woman could live in peace and harmony, but more so in harmony. In ancient Kemet, everything is built in harmony with nature. Can you believe that? Even the pyramids were built in what? In harmony with nature. How many can believe that they took those pyramids and they used the stars as a way of even creating the shaft that went down through the pyramids? Use the stars. Can you imagine a star shining on the meditation table every year, after year, after year, after year, the same spot? That's in harmony with what? Nature. And you know, the ancient Kemites have a language. You know what they call the language? The Medu Nature. You know what that means? Divine word, or the word of God. Nature is the root word for what? Divine, or divinity, isn't it? Huh? Nature is another word for God. Because in nature we see examples of what ought to be. So let me leave you with this. We have a job. And our job is to leave that legacy, a legacy for our children. Thank you very much.